Good afternoon. This is Harriet Spate from Governance Services. Under agenda item number 1, Councillor Garner was nominated as chair prior to the start of the meeting. Can I ask if all members are agreeable?
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Garner
Yes.
is formally elected as chair. Over to you, Chair.
Thanks, Harriet, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this remote hearing and licensing subcommittee. As I already said, my name is Councillor Garner, and I'll be chairing today's hearing. Before I proceed further, could I remind everyone that the meeting is being streamed on the City Council's YouTube channel. Could I ask the other two members of the subcommittee to introduce yourselves? Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, Councillor Hutchison, Morley North Ward.
Councillor Wenham.
Councillor Angela Wenham, Durong Ward.
Thank you. And we'll start today by confirming that although remote, this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee meets the requirements of the Council's constitution. And while the items today will be fully discussed as it normally would be in person, remote attendance requires a few changes to how we manage the debate. So just a reminder that you should mute your microphones unless invited to speak by myself as chair, just to minimise background noise. If you can keep your cameras on during the hearing, if possible, that would be fantastic. And all participants will be invited to introduce themselves at the start of the hearing to make it clear to public observers who are viewing on YouTube who will be involved in the proceedings. So I'll just ask for your patience while we go through that process. Could I ask officers to introduce yourselves and mute your microphones after? I'll start with Rob Brown.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert Brown. I'm a solicitor in Leeds City Council's Legal Services, and I'm legal advisor to the subcommittee this afternoon, and I'm supported by my colleague and fellow solicitor, Philippa Murray.
Thank you, and hi Philippa. Matthew Nelson.
Yeah, good afternoon everybody. My name is Matthew, I'm part of Entertainment Licensing, and today I'm supported by Samantha Longfellow Pennicott.
Brilliant, hi Samantha as well, and Harriet.
Good afternoon, everyone. Harriet Spate, Governance Services at Leeds City Council.
Brill, thank you. I think that's everyone officer-wise. Yes, it is. So moving to the agenda, could I ask Harriet just to go through agenda items 2 to 5, please?
Of course, thank you, Chair. Under agenda item number 2, there are no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. And under agenda item number 3, there are no exempt items which require the exclusion of the press and public. Under agenda item number 4, there are no late items. And under agenda item number 5, could I ask members to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests, please?
None.
None from myself.
Thank you.
None.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chair. Back to you.
Thanks, Harriet. So agenda item number 6, the main item today is the application for the grant of a premises licence for a Lost at Sea restaurant. Could I ask the applicant and their representatives, please introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Neil Smedley. I'm the owner of King Cobra, which is the premises where we hope Lost at Sea will be, and I'm here representing the application for Lost at Sea.
And my name is Paddy Worm, a licensing solicitor, and I'm representing Mr. Smedley.
Thank you. And welcome, Mr. Smedley, and Mr. Ware, a regular to our licensing subcommittee meeting, so thank you. Could I ask the objectors to introduce yourselves? I'll go through. We've got James Greenhalgh, is it?
Yeah, it's James Greenhalgh. I'm the owner and manager of Flamingos Coffee House.
Thank you. And Natasha Hanley, are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. Natasha Hanley, pronouns as she, her. I'm the founder of Trans Pride Leeds and a trustee of Trans Leeds.
Thank you. And I understand you're the one of James's witnesses.
That's right, yeah.
Thank you. And Faye Casby.
Hi there, I'm Faye Casby, pronouns they, them. I am one of James's witnesses. I'm the founder of Unwritten, co-founder of Subjective Silhouettes and Words with Queers, as well as representing several other community interests.
Thank you, Faye. And we've got Leon Fleming.
Hi, yeah, I'm Leon Fleming. I'm the chair of Bradford Pride, and I'm a trustee of a charity in Bradford, and I'm also I co-run one of the community groups that uses Flamingos.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, we did have one other objector who put in a notification to attend the meeting today, but it was late this morning or early this morning when they put in that application, and they couldn't come until later through the committee time. So we've made the decision to carry on. We have given a little bit more time during these introductory proceedings to see if they turn up, but they haven't been able to. So in the circumstances, we agreed as committee members to carry on with the objectives. So thank you for coming. And I hope that's all right with everyone. Could Rob, as a legal advisor to the subcommittee, outline the procedure for the hearing, please?
Thank you, Chair. Our usual procedure for this type of application is that the applicant would address the committee first, then any other parties who've indicated an intention to speak at the hearing can then address the committee, and then the applicant has the chance to respond to anything said by the other parties. I don't know whether the objectors have discussed between them the order in which they wish to address the committee, but that might be something that they will want to think about while the applicant is outlining its case. In making its determination, the subcommittee will consider what's appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives, which are 1, the prevention of crime and disorder, 2, public safety, 3, the prevention of public nuisance, 4, the protection of children from harm. The regulations permit the subcommittee to set a time limit on presentations, provided that the same time limit is applied to all parties. Our usual time limit is 15 minutes per party. The applicant may wish to split their allocation between their initial presentation and their response to the other party. For example, 10 minutes initially and then 5 minutes at the end. Can I just ask the parties whether they feel that 15 minutes would be sufficient?
If I might come in here, the way that we would ideally like to present it is that it would be I would be allowed 20 minutes to speak, of which it will incorporate within that 20 minutes. It will include the other 3 witnesses who I would call during my 20 minutes of allocated time, and then obviously those 3 that are remaining would not wish to speak further.
And the other parties, do you have any comments about how long you think you might need?
No, 15 minutes sounds perfectly adequate to me. That's fine.
Yes, if it helps the committee, I intend to make the application on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Smedley can obviously deal with any specific inquiries that are raised by the committee, but I think that if the objectors are going to take 20 minutes, perhaps I could. I won't need more than 10 minutes to set out the application, but I might need slightly more than 5 minutes to deal with anything that comes out in the oral submissions that are made by the objectors, but certainly no more than the 20 minutes that the objectors are requiring.
Sorry, Mr. Word, did you say that you're calling witnesses?
No, I won't be calling witnesses. I will, in the usual way that I appear in front of the committee, I will make the application. Mr. Smedley is here and can deal with any questions from an operational style that the subcommittee would wish to make. But I don't intend to call him. He can deal with any questions that are raised.
Right. Okay. So we've got, who else has got intending to speak today? Let me just check my notes. We've got James Greenhalgh. How long do you intend to speak for?
As I said, I intend that the whole presentation that we will be giving of evidence, which will include the other 3 witnesses, would be approximately 20 minutes. And that would be about 16, 17 minutes of us 4 talking, and then 2 or 3 minutes at the end for me to sum up if anything else arises. That was my anticipation.
Okay, just I think 2 of your witnesses have also put in representation, so they would, in the normal course of events, be entitled to speak for the same amount of time as all the other parties. But is it correct then that Faye Casby and Leon Fleming, that you only wish to be called as witnesses, you don't want to make submissions on your own?
No, I'm happy to be called as a witness.
Yeah, I'm happy just to be called as a witness as well.
Right. Okay, that simplifies things, I think. So, Chair, do you wish to set a time limit? And
I think given the what's been said, 20 minutes seems fine. If the other two members are in agreement, Mr. Worth seems happy with that as well, with 10 minutes to set out, 10 minutes to sum up, and 20 minutes for objectors, notwithstanding that some of those are being called as witnesses in Mr. Greenhalgh's 20 minutes. That seems fine.
Okay, so a time limit of 20 minutes will apply to all presentations. After each presentation, the subcommittee members may wish to ask questions. The time for questions to be asked and answered is in addition to the time limit set for presentations. Please note that we do not permit cross-examination in subcommittee. If any party feels there is a crucial question that needs to be asked and answered, please don't ask the person directly, but instead make a request to the chair, who will then determine whether or not the question should be put. Parties may request permission to call witnesses, and we've covered that. All documents that have previously been submitted have been copied and circulated to the subcommittee in advance. You should all have the same original pack consisting of a main bundle numbered to page 136. And it'd be helpful when referring to documents to identify which document you're referring to by its bundle page number. Additional documents may now only be tabled with the consent of all parties. Could I ask if anybody does have any additional documents? You can raise your hand if you do. Oh, good. Please note that your presentation is your only opportunity to address the subcommittee. So you need to make sure that you've included in your presentation everything that you wish to say and to have taken into account. After the parties have made their presentations and after any questions, the subcommittee members will go into a private session. If members have any additional questions to ask, they will return to the meeting to ask those questions. They will then go back to the private session to make their decision. And can all parties please remain in the meeting until they're asked to leave? All the parties will be informed once the hearing has ended and will be advised of the decision in writing within 5 working days of today. Can I ask if there are any questions or representations about the procedure we propose to follow? No. Thank you. Chair.
Thanks, Rob. Could Matthew, the licensing officer, outline the application, please?
Yeah, of course, Chair. Thank you. So today members are asked to consider an application for the grant of a premises licence. This is for Lost at Sea Restaurant, ground floor, Unit 11, Central Arcade, Leeds, LS1. The application explains that the premises will operate as a barber's shop with a bar offering sale by retail of alcohol, regulated entertainment and late night refreshment. The application is applied for by a limited company, KK Leeds Limited, and proposes both the sale by retail of alcohol and regulated entertainment from 10 AM until 2 AM the following morning, Monday to Sunday. The provision of late night refreshment is also proposed Monday to Sunday, and this is from when it's effective at 11 PM until 2 AM the following morning. Seasonal variations and non-standard timings can be noted at 3.3 of the agenda, and a full copy of the application form, including the complete operating schedule, is available at Appendix 8 on page 11 of the report. West Yorkshire Police have made representation to the application, offering suggested measures in order to promote the crime prevention licensing objective. These measures have been agreed by the applicant and now form part of the operating schedule, which has resulted in West Yorkshire Police withdrawing their representation. The accepted conditions, which includes a minimum number of seating for the premises, can be found at Appendix C on page 41. The application has attracted a total of 31 individual representations, which includes one from a local ward councillor opposing the application mainly on the grounds of crime and disorder and public nuisance. A copy of the councillor representation is at Appendix D on page 49 of the report, and the representations from other parties can be found at Appendix E on page 51. It should be noted that the applying premises are located in an area that is subject to the Leeds City Centre Cumulative Impact Assessment, and a copy of the evidence supporting that policy can be found at Appendix F on page 85. Finally, it should also be noted that the premises do not fall within either of the 2 areas of special concerns designated as red zones in the policy. but they do fall within the overall cumulative impact area where there are concerns regarding street drinking and associated antisocial behaviour. That's the application. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, just trying to find my mute button. Thanks, Matthew. Could I invite the applicant or Mr. Werer's representative, to present the application, please? And I believe we said you said for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee and those who have raised concerns about the granting of this licence. Can I just from the outset just talk about what the premises are? So Neil Smedley is here. He's well known within Leeds city centre for being one of the preeminent barbers in the city centre. The premises have traded in this location for about 8 months. It's a very successful business. There's about 15 chairs in the premises, 18 to 20 different stylists. They come from a mixed background, some are female, some are male. And customers wanting to use the premises, we would like to offer them to have the opportunity to have a drink whilst they're there during the daytime. And then as the premises start to wind down their activities as being a barber later on in the early evening, then they would become a bar that would be certainly catering for the kind of people who've been using the facilities previously. The premises are also going to be offering barbering courses, very inclusive, lots of different tutors that are going to be there, and even funding will be available for people to run on the courses that will be going on in there. It's a premium priced salon. It's got a mixed customer base of customers that go in to have treatments at the premises, and through their hookup with what they're going to call themselves Lost at Sea, they're going to be marketing the Lost at Sea beers, modest amount of alcohol, no draft beers, wines, a gin selection. This is something that's become very popular with premises such as these. A percentage of all of the sales of alcohol are denoted to the RNLI to fit in with the Lost at Sea branding. And it's really in relation to the element of it becoming an area for people to go and sit and have a drink, to be very differentiated from Cool Lane. So there is, certainly Neil would tell you, he thinks a customer base that don't want to be going into Cool Lane for a drink, but would like a nice environment, which we wish to offer through these premises for people to sit, enjoy, have a drink, and relax in these quality premises. As you would expect for premises that are fit within the city centre, and Matthew's just highlighted to you that the premises don't fall in the red zone. They are still within the CIP, which covers most of the city centre. So as a starting point, we met with the responsible authorities to explain what we wanted to achieve. There was pre-consultation, which you would expect. And as agreed, we put in an application with a very robust operating schedule. And you can see that from the application, which is in your pack. It uses all of the conditions that you would expect to see from the pool of conditions that Leeds City Council very helpfully creates. So a very strong operating schedule, robust conditions, and as a result of that, all of the responsible authorities were happy, apart from the fact that the police just wished us to add those additional 3 conditions, which you can see at page 44 that's been highlighted to you. Those conditions just finished the position with regard to the responsible authorities, and importantly, 20 seats guaranteed in the premises all the time. And on the back of that, all of your responsible authorities were very, very comfortable that these premises would be capable of promoting the licensing objectives. And I'm going to come on to dealing with the objections that you have today, but just really for those who are making objections and for the benefit of my clients and for the licensing subcommittee, I would just remind you that in my respectful submission, we followed the local policy, we're compliant with the Section 182 guidance and the Act. and what we are seeking to offer in the style of operation, the type of alcohol, and the conditions that are attached to the premises, we feel it would certainly be appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives and grant this license. Chair, members of the committee, it's obviously a situation where public notices go. People who are nervous about the impact of premises have the right to talk to you about their worries about how we might impinge on the licensing objectives. Can I just deal with the issues that have come out of those letters of representation? There is some public safety and prevention of children from harm issues. On the public safety, there is a suggestion that we aren't capable of being compliant with the requirements on us in relation to fire safety. Can I just remind the committee that the fire officer is served with this application? We will, as all operators have to do, carry out a risk assessment and make sure that we comply with everything that we have to do in relation to the RRO for fire risk assessments. In relation to the prevention of children from harm, nobody, as you can see from the conditions offered, under 18 will be allowed in these premises on an evening. So I don't think that those two issues are issues that really should be troubling the committee today. The opposition to the application really falls within two licensing objectives, which is the promotion of making sure that we don't add to crime and disorder or public nuisance in the area. And as Matthew's highlighted, the purpose of the cumulative impact policy is in relation to street drinking and antisocial behaviour around here. We've offered conditions where we won't allow alcohol to be taken from the premises, so that's certainly not something that would be contributing to any antisocial behaviour in the area or street drinking. And there would be very strong management in relation to the style of operation for the premises to be inclusive, for them to allow a relaxed environment for people to come away from Call Lane, a different market, a different client base, slightly older, and Neil could certainly talk to you if you wished about the client base that they have. I know that James is going to talk to you. I think that his opposition comes from letter 1, which is in your agenda packet, pages 51 to 53. And I think really just to give some comfort to those that are continuing to object, you can see from that letter of opposition that the applicants did reach out to talk to the next door neighbours, and that's something that we would wish to continue should the licence be granted. These premises are going to continue to trade in the way that they have done for 8 months. We're asking for the ability to sell alcohol during the day, which we think will have minimal impact in relation to any neighbours in licensing objective terms in relation to public nuisance or crime and disorder. And then when the premises become an environment for people to sit and have a drink when the barbering is closed, because of the style of operation, the type of alcohol being sold, the way the building is dressed, the way Neil will run the premises, we want it to be an inclusive environment, to offer a safe environment to all those people who want to come and use our premises. But we want to be a considerate and careful neighbour, and we will certainly continue to offer to work with any of those who've raised concerns about the potential impact. Chair, that's the application in a nutshell. We would say to you that it is a proper application that's been well made with a very strong operating schedule, a robust set of conditions being offered, a mature operator with a great catchment of people that he wants to include in the premises. And we're certainly confident that we can prove to those that are nervous about the application that the responsible authorities are right and we will promote the licensing objectives. Chair, that's the application. Should you have any questions of Mr. Smedley, who's obviously here in the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. I'm going to offer questions to my colleagues. First of all, I do have a few myself. Councillor Wenham or Councillor Hutchison, any questions from either of you?
I've got no questions at the moment, but I may have as we go through the hearing.
Councillor Wenham?
I don't know if this is appropriate. I don't know if this question is appropriate now. We were talking about the actual winding down, what time do the wind down from the barbers to the actual entertainment?
Yeah, I can answer that for you. So usually Monday through to Thursday, we usually begin to sort of wind down at 6 o'clock. But there is a crossover period from getting the barbershop clean and ready and sterile again, which usually takes us about an hour and a half. So we wouldn't expect that the bar to become actually a bar until about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening at the earliest.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions. Thank you, Angela. And you Lost at Sea restaurant sort of suggests a food element to this. Is that going to be offered?
We're not sure at the moment. It's something that we've discussed. The food offering that we're proposing, if we do go down that route, is cold seafood that we get direct from Leeds Market across the road. So we're keeping that local theme. So it wouldn't require any ventilation or cooking facilities or anything like that.
Okay. And do you want to say some more on, as it's been pointed out, the main objections? One of them seems to be the sound and noise issues. And any plans for music or how to mitigate against noise issues, certainly to neighbouring properties and the arcade itself?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as has been mentioned before, we have no intention to become a Call Lane, Greek Street kind of bar where music is one of the main themes. So the music, we will be playing music on an evening, obviously, but the music that we play on an evening will be no different in terms of volume to what it is now when we're open as a barbershop. And in the 18 months we've been here, we've never had a single complaint about the noise. So it wouldn't be any greater or lesser than it currently is. But certainly, I mean, if that was to be a problem, then we can certainly find ways to mitigate that. But as it stands now, it would be no louder than we are during the day. Okay.
And the arcade closing time has been mentioned, and you've already mentioned sort of your winding down is 6 while 7. The application itself goes till 2 a.m, which appears, just taking what some of the objectors have said, to that 2 a.m. to be quite a jump. Can you comment on that arcade closing time and whether that whether your plans sort of go against what looks to have been agreed? Again, just reading from the objecting comments.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the arcade at the moment, and James can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we shut at 11 o'clock, and that was different during lockdown. It may have been a little bit earlier, but I think standardly it should be 11 a.m. We're unique in the arcade in as much as we have a dual entrance. We have an entrance where you can access via the arcade, and we have a backdoor entrance that goes straight out onto Central Street, which also doubles up as a fire door. So we do have our own entrance where we would not need to rely on access to the arcade for our customers.
So I presume after the normal closing time, you wouldn't be using that arcade entrance?
No. In fact, I would imagine that as soon as we make the transition from barbershop into bar, we would stop using the arcade entrance altogether to keep traffic away from the arcade completely.
Okay, thank you. That was it from me. Councillor Wenham or Hutchison, do you have anything else based on those?
Yes, sorry. Yes, I do. I don't know if this is appropriate. Owing to the coronavirus, what steps are they taking to keep the distancing?
Sorry, I couldn't find my one. The same steps that we're taking now as a barbershop. So all of our areas are mapped out to 2 meters distance. That would continue in the bar for as long as those regulations stay in place. I mean, God knows when that is, but it's looking certainly till next year. We've spent a small fortune in all of our shops on PPE. All of that is in place. Numbers in and numbers out in terms of customers that are being served would all be in regulation with COVID. We've been COVID compliant since the first lockdown, and that would be no different now with the granting of this licence.
Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Most of the representation appears to be coming from Flamingos. Since you've been operating as a barber's shop, I think for the last 8 months, have you had any incidents or complaints directly from them?
No, not as far as I'm aware. I mean, me and James we speak relatively regularly. Obviously, we're next on news. It's actually 18 months we've been in this location. When we were doing the shop fit out, James had some concerns, understandably so. It was very, very noisy. and there was no way of getting around that. So we had to work together then. But in terms of real objections from James, I can't think of any unless you can correct me on that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to assume that's it from members for Mr. Smedley. That's fine, thank you. We've got on to James now. Are you able to present your case, as you said, with the witnesses for up to 20 minutes, as you said earlier, between the lot of you? Although as individual objectors, you could take 20 minutes each, but I've already said that's not going to be the case. James.
I'd say I'll just want to present, and then as long as I've got a couple of minutes at the end in case there's anything at the very end to come back to. So can you hear me okay? I think the speaker's on. Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak. I just wanted to talk you through some of the negative impacts this proposal could, as it stands without any restrictions, have on the LGBT community in Leeds. And I do want to make it clear that I'm not objecting in full. So long as appropriate measures are in place for our safety, as set out in my evidence, which I'm going to give, I don't want to stop this in its tracks. It sounds like it could be a fantastic addition to the area, but with the right safeguards in place. I appreciate that they're saying it's not going to be a rowdy bar like on Call Lane, but I need those safeguards because we are nervous, and obviously we need it set in stone that we've got those safeguards in place. So I want to give you a bit of background as well. So prior to the opening of Flamingos Coffee House, there were no specifically LGBT+ dry venues in Leeds city centre or in the Freedom Quarter, which is the name given to the gay quarter in the city, which is about 100 metres away from where we're situated. In 2016-17, Leeds City Council consulted LGBT people around Leeds to find out what is important to them about LGBT communities in the city, what assets already exist and where the gaps might be, and produced a report with their findings. The importance of safe spaces for LGBT people was highlighted throughout the survey and other consultations. There were comments throughout the survey that indicated that for many, existing LGBT spaces in the gay scene weren't emotionally or physically safe or accessible. For example, many of the venues don't have disabled access, so they're not step-free, or they don't have a disabled toilet, which we have. And furthermore, many felt that the LGBT scene was far too bar-focused, and commented that there were no venues for people to socialise that didn't revolve around alcohol. And obviously, for some people, alcohol-free and dry spaces were implicitly a safer space. And this was related to the recognition that abusive and problematic drinking and drug taking disproportionately affects the LGBT people. And for some LGBT people recovering from problematic drinking, the lack of spaces that were not bars or clubs meant that they had a limited access to LGBT social lives in Leeds, which increased the risk of isolation and loneliness. So in response to these reports, Flamingos Coffee House was set up, indeed in the most recent report prior to its opening, which was approved by the Leeds City Council executive. They noted that there was a lack of spaces such as what we provide at Flamingos Coffee House. And so any licensing decision made today or in the future should not be made which clearly contradicts or damages the stated aims of the Leeds City Council LGBT+ inclusive city plan. Since we've opened, Flamingos has become a huge asset to the community. So many groups come to use the space. Such groups include Hidayah LGBT Muslim group, Friends of Dorothy, which is a group for older, isolated LGBT people, Leeds Bi group, Trans Leeds, MESMAC, which is a charity for LGBT sexual health services in Yorkshire, African Rainbow Family, which helps BAME LGBT folks who are in crisis, Leeds Angels of Freedom, which is a street support team, and People in Action, which is an LGBT support group for disabled people. Obviously, the list could really go on, but they're just a few of the groups who have held events in the past or meet here at Flamingos regularly, obviously pre-COVID. Flamingos really is a community hub for the LGBT community. And you're probably going to be asking, how is this relevant to the application? I'll go on to explain that for you. My first major concern relates to licensing objective 3, which is the prevention of public nuisance relating to noise. Since the occupier has been in the premises, we've had some minor noise issues, which we haven't formally gone through any complaints process because we've just gone and had a quick chat with the lads. But it has caused disruption to some customers on a few occasions, and other local businesses, and to my staff. And I understand that other businesses in the arcade have voiced their concerns in their own written submissions, so it's not just me on this matter. The walls, I'm obviously right next door to the unit. The walls are not particularly thick. Indeed, most of the shop exterior is glass, and the doors are often open to the unit next door, which obviously has a sound system, which, because it's an arcade, it obviously travels right through it. Pre-COVID, we would hold events in our shop that would be possibly ruined by very loud music. For example, community book clubs, spoken word poetry evenings, support groups for older people, and board games night, etc. The list goes on, and I'll be inviting a few witnesses from the LGBT community to speak about this shortly. Without adequate noise prevention measures in place, I'm concerned, and as my customers are, that those visiting the venue would lose their right to quiet, peaceful enjoyment and would ruin some of these events in the tranquility of our venue. Obviously, this would damage the viability of the business, and if people don't want to come here, we won't be able to pay the bills, and we could possibly go under. In many written submissions and objections from my patrons regarding the application, they've confirmed that these concerns are real. In order to resolve this objection, I would ask that you impose some licensing conditions that would reduce the noise impact. Firstly, I would ask that the doors from the premises that enter into Central Arcade, I know Neil has said they've got 2 doors, so the doors that enter into the arcade directly adjacent my shop should remain closed and only used as an emergency exit during the hours for which they have applied to supply alcohol and have music. I believe that's set out in the details of that are set out in the application. Secondly, that the wall directly next to my shop has noise prevention measures, i.e. soundproofing, put in place. And thirdly, limiting noise permitted before 9 AM, i.e. our normal pre-COVID closing time. There could be a crossover between the sort of 7 to 9 o'clock period in the evening, and that does concern me. And obviously, if these measures are strictly followed, it could remove all these possible negative impacts on Flamingos Coffee House. My second objection relates to antisocial behaviour, which I understand could fall under 3 of the 4 licensing objectives, which are prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, and the prevention of public nuisance. Central Arcade and the surrounding area has already had a significant problem with antisocial behaviour, particularly relating to drug dealing and the consumption of alcohol on the street, which can be seen in documents from the police and your committee papers. I would be concerned that this issue could be made worse. It is important to note that Flamingos was specifically set up as a dry venue, and we are unique and relied upon by sober LGBT folk who have nowhere else on the scene to go, as my witnesses will testify shortly. We're located in Central Arcade to be away from the boozy bars and clubs, and if you look at the city centre cumulative impact policy documents in your committee papers, Central Arcade does not have any licensed premises within it, and certainly none nearby that are open during the same times as Gloucester proposed. So this could, if not managed properly, be a new antisocial behaviour issue for us. I understand, obviously, that if the application is approved, there is very little that can be done to avoid increased antisocial behaviour, which is why I wish this application will have some additional measures added onto it to help mitigate those impacts. A way to mitigate this further could be a licensing condition that door staff are in place from 7 PM in each evening that they are open and selling alcohol, with a specific additional responsibility to prevent antisocial behaviour and loitering within the arcade and outside Flamingos Coffee House. Now, we as businesses within Central Arcade employ security staff until 7 PM. So I'm confident that so long as we've got these other measures in place, until 7 PM, we've got a way to deal with that. From 7 PM till 9 PM we are open, we don't seem to have anything in place. I really don't think that we should have to put up with any potential public nuisance, and this seems like a pragmatic way to deal with it, as many venues often do have door staff anyway. So that's the end of my first part of my evidence. I just want to invite the 3 witnesses to come forward before I continue my presentation. So if I'd like to present Leon Fleming, who just for 1 or 2 minutes is going to put something forward now.
Hi, thanks, James. Yeah, I'm Leon Fleming. As someone who works in the LGBTQ+ community, as chair of Bradford Pride, trustee of an LGBTQ plus charity and community hub equity partnership in Bradford, and also co-running one of the community groups that uses Flamingos, I have an understanding of how important dry spaces are to our community. Leeds has only a handful of LGBTQ plus spaces, and only one of them, Flamingos, is dry. Not everyone wants to be around alcohol or is comfortable in alcohol-based venues. And many in our community are not even old enough to go in these venues, which makes Flamingos uniquely important to the LGBTQ plus community in Leeds. The community group in Leeds I work with uses Flamingos pre-COVID for our late evening socials and to do work which supports other areas of the LGBTQ plus community in Leeds. We have regular condom packing socials to help out local LGBTQ plus sexual health charity Yorkshire Mesmac. I feel quite sure that many of our members would be uncomfortable with having to pass straight people who have been drinking to get to Flamingos. The risk of homophobic and transphobic abuse is goes much higher when straight people have been drinking, and then to be affected by the noise from the bar once they're inside Flamingos. Many other cities in the UK have their own LGBTQ plus community spaces, Bradford, Hull, Birmingham and Manchester, but Leeds doesn't. And for a community our size, that's pretty bad. But it does have Flamingos, which is the nearest thing we have to it. There's lots and lots of straight bars in Leeds, but there is only one dry community LGBTQ plus community space, and that's Flamingos. And I think this bar puts Flamingos at risk. Thank you.
Thanks, Leon, for that. If I can just ask that the next two witnesses that I call up just keep their things to about 90 seconds. Obviously, if you've got more to say, you've obviously got your own separate time if you wish to do that, but I'm just conscious I've got things I also need to go through. But thank you, Leon. Thank you very much. So I can now invite Natasha Hanley, who's a trustee and founder of Trans Leeds, to speak.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm one of the founders of Trans Pride Leeds and a trustee of Trans Leeds, which is a support and advocacy group for the trans community in Leeds. Flamingos is a valuable space for the trans community. It is the only quiet space away from the hustle and bustle of the bars where trans people can meet up to chat and socialise. Trans Leeds runs events and support groups there for vulnerable people, and I bring people there for one-to-one support sessions. We consider it a safe environment. I worry about the safety of our service users should a bar open next door. Many of our service users are yet to come out as trans or in the very early stages of their transition. I worry that if there's a bar next door, they are more likely to be harassed or receive negative attention from people who have been drinking, which can have long-lasting effects on their confidence and may even stop them from transitioning out of fear for how they will be seen or fear for their safety. These are legitimate concerns as hate crime against trans people has more than trebled in West Yorkshire in the last 3 years. Additionally, some of our service users are autistic or have audio processing issues and so get overwhelmed by loud environments. We simply wouldn't be able to continue running support groups or events at Flamingos if there was a noisy bar next door. And that would be a tragedy as it's the only quiet, dry space for LGBT people in Leeds, as previous people have said. And for children and young people especially, it is the only place they can go to socialise at all. So I hope you'll consider these issues in your decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natasha. And then if I can invite Faye Casby to speak.
Hi there. As I mentioned, I'm the founder or co-founder of many community groups who meet almost exclusively at Flamingos. My main objection is that many of the groups that I run at Flamingos can only run at Flamingos in its current form, and a noisy bar moving next door would stop those running. This is partly because these groups are specifically advertised to certain minorities and people with protected characteristics, such as LGBTQ plus Muslims, who often have nowhere else to go, people recovered from addiction, and people who've recently left prison who might have restrictions on where they can go. A bar moving next to Flamingos will stop these people attending, as they may not want to be or cannot be next to a place that sells alcohol. The nature of these groups also relies on Flamingo's quiet location. Writing groups and performance workshops need to run in venues where people can be heard easily and are not likely to be interrupted. Due to Flamingos being just off the beaten track, this is a perfect venue for this kind of group in a time where the arts has very little funding. A noisy bar next door by way of loud music and loud patrons make it impossible to run these groups. And some of these groups are the only fully accessible groups in Leeds because most of them run in bars that are not accessible. I also want to point out briefly that I actually have had cause to complain to the barbers before about the noise bleeding into Flamingos. Having a bar next door would also reduce the accessibility of Flamingos. As you can probably tell, I am a disabled person. Flamingos is the only dry and fully accessible space available after 8 p.m. for free. And as many people in the LGBTQ community are disabled, it's worth pointing out that approximately 80% of the whole population is disabled, but a third of LGBTQ people are disabled. Having people at the side would reduce that accessibility because it reduces the way people can get into the arcade.
Lovely, thank you very much, Faye, for that. And hopefully the committee members have seen the strength of feeling and how important that our venue really is to the community. So that's that part of my evidence. I've just got a couple of other points that I want to raise now. I believe that representations that have been made to Leeds City Council may not fully reflect the plans that Lost at Sea could have. And Neil, the owner, very kindly sat me down and showed me his plans for the venue, and I do appreciate that. But I'm not sure that they match the details within the licensing application. Now, obviously, within the application, bear with me, sorry, where are my notes? Let's have a look. In the plan submitted to the council, it only shows that part of the venue being used applied for the use of licensable activities, i.e. the area highlighting on the left of the drawing you've been provided by the applicant. My concerns are that when I spoke to Neil, he said that they were hoping to use the whole venue for licensing activities, and indeed the solicitor today, when he introduced the case, indicated in his initial comments that customers are invited to have a drink whilst they're having their haircut. Obviously, the cutting doesn't happen in the area that they've asked for the license, so it seems to suggest that the activities there may be bigger than what the application is suggesting. And obviously, West Yorkshire Police have said that there needs to be at least 20 seats. Well, if any of the members have come in to have a look at the venue, I think it'd be very difficult for 20 seats to be fit within the area of the application. So perhaps it is the case that the whole venue is wanting to be used for alcohol and not just the small area. And I don't think they're intending to mislead anyone at all. I don't believe that one bit. I think there might be a misunderstanding, but we do need to get clarification on this because the implications of this far larger proposal could be significantly more damaging to Flamingos. My second and final point I wish to make now is a related point, and it's concerns about licensing objective 3, public safety, specifically to fire safety. Now, hopefully the members have had a quick look, but having looked at the plan submitted to Leeds City Council, I do not believe that the fire safety plans submitted reflect the reality of the premises. And I believe that the property is not fire safe and therefore poses a risk to both the safety of my business and also to their customers. And let me just explain further. The fire safety diagram they've submitted as part of the application shows that there is more than one exit, i.e. the main door at the top left of the diagram and also the bottom right. The landlord has confirmed to me that Lost at Sea is not connected to the main shopping centre fire system, which means that one of the fire exits is potentially obstructed during some of the proposed opening hours. This is because during the opening hours of 7 a.m. to 9 p.m, the main external entrance exit shutters to the Central Arcade shopping centre are open. If there was a fire during these hours, then both proposed exits would be usable, as the bottom right exit leads to Central Arcade itself and the external shutters would be open and thus be a clear exit. If there was a fire outside of these hours, i.e. between 9 p.m. and 7 p.m. when the Central Arcade shutters are closed, the proposed exit route will be obstructed and there is no other pathway to an exit on the ground floor. The only way these shutters would open if Lost at Sea was connected to the main shopping centre fire system, and that they're obviously not connected. I'm also slightly concerned about the sprinkler system, because obviously if there was a fire in that unit, my unit would be the next door one, which would be most likely to be affected if there was a fire which wasn't fully contained. And in order for my objections to be resolved, I think there needs to be a full assessment of this. Your officers have already advised me, and obviously said earlier on, that the West Yorkshire Fire Service have not already said they wish to make any comment. Your officers have already advised that West Yorkshire Fire Service have said they don't wish to make any comments, but the above concerns are not apparent within the application and shows there could be significant risks which has been overlooked. I've therefore passed my concerns and new evidence to West Yorkshire Fire Service, who have not yet had the time to consider the matter. Therefore, they may now wish to make further representations based on this new information, and I therefore ask that you either wait to hear from West Yorkshire Fire Service to see if they now wish to make any representation, or if you grant a licence, it is conditional on any recommendation suggested or imposed by the fire authorities. That concludes my representation. I've got 1 more minute to go. All I want to do is to finish and say I want to highlight a few paragraphs taken from the objections you've received from the public. So the first one is that lots of patrons will be obviously queer, and I myself have worries that patrons next door will be peering at us like they are at the zoo. Second quote, Flamingos is a very important venue and it is the only LGBTQ dry space in Leeds. There are lots of bars already. This is the only LGBTQ dry space. And finally, one of the things that makes us feel safe is knowing that we aren't going to be crowds of drunk people gathered outside of an evening, that there isn't going to be music blasting through the vicinity, and that we have somewhere safe to go where we can be ourselves without fear. Flamingos is a vital part of our community and a city that prides itself on its inclusivity for LGBT people. Allowing a bar to open these premises would be an incredibly counterintuitive and cruel decision. There are bars throughout the city centre, but there are one Flamingos. Obviously, I've set out what I think could be conditions that could mean that the bar could open, but would prevent it being ruining the space that we have here. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, James, and thank you to witnesses. Thank you, Leon, Faye, and Natasha. Any questions from my colleagues, first of all, to James, our witnesses?
Yes, please, if I may, Chair.
Go on.
I've been, while you're sort of making your representation, sort of frantically scribbling down questions, and I've got a few for the representation, also for the applicant as well, maybe after we've finished with James. Firstly, I mean, I may have missed it, and my apologies. Your actual opening times of Flamingos?
Yes, our opening times are, we open early morning, as you expect most coffee shops do, and then we close at 9 p.m. in the evening, which is later than most coffee shops, if not all coffee shops in the city centre.
Right, okay. And there's been mention of complaints with regards to the noise, but no formal complaints have been sort of taken up with the barber shop in the last 18 months. Have you had any other reason to complain around any sort of homophobic behaviour from the barber shop?
Personally, I haven't seen it, and I'm pretty sure that Neil would probably fire anyone that was like that, to be fair. I trust in Neil in that he when he says he wants to be inclusive, he does want to be inclusive, and I don't think he'd tolerate any activity like that. But certainly the complaints that we have made, they've been very minor regarding noise. Usually they're dealt with quite quickly, but obviously a bar is very different proposal to a barber shop, and that's my concern going forward.
Okay, and then if you can just explain to me on the map that we have as to regards, it shows us on the application where there are licensed premises. I can see where Lost at Sea is. Whereabouts is Flamingos? Is that number 10 next to Lost at Sea?
Unfortunately, I haven't got that document in front of me, but if I remember rightly, so we are Unit 10, which is directly next door to the very far right of the
right. Okay, and then gaining access to your premises, is that down the arcade, what would look like sort of, there's like a walkway? Is that
yes,
access to your premises that way?
Yes, so their main door at the moment is directly next door to my main door. In fact, I've only got one door, so yeah.
Right, right, okay. And then is there, within the area where Flamingos is there a homophobic problem with other premises in and around that area currently?
No, we don't have any issues with homophobic businesses at all in the area. Obviously, we have had issues with homophobic incidents relating to drunkenness and drug abuse, which is obviously an issue that is in the city centre. We would be concerned, as I've previously outlined, that with further alcohol licences granted in the area, if not managed properly, there could be more instances of homophobia.
Right. Okay. All right.
But certainly everyone in the vicinity is very accepting, and it's a nice place.
Okay. Excellent. I think that kind of covers my questions for, you mentioned just something about sprinklers. I mean, I'm guessing you have sprinklers throughout your premises and so do Lost at Sea.
Well,
that
is
you said there was a concern over sprinklers?
Yeah, there is. So as I wanted to seek clarification on this, because all of the units in Central Arcade are connected to the fire panel and are connected to the sprinkler system. I wanted to get clarification on this from the landlord, and this was confirmed in writing, which I did submit to the licensing committee in writing. That was a confirmation from the landlord that Lost at Sea have neither, which was why I was concerned and wanted to raise it as a concern. Obviously, as the neighbouring unit, if there was a fire, I would be the first one who would be likely to be find that as, you know, be impacted. And the only way that it would be connected and set off my sprinklers, if there was a system, was if they were connected to that system, which currently they are not.
Just jump in there, Councillor Hutchison. Sorry, Matthew, can you just confirm was that sent to licensing officers rather than licensing committee? I know you said committee, James, but
yeah, with some additional evidence, and our response was that it's not relevant to an application for a premises license. It's enforced by West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service in their primary legislation for dealing with breaches of fire regulations, which is the advice we gave were to contact West Yorkshire Fire directly.
I think James has done that, as stated earlier. I just wanted to double check that, just because you said committee, James. Just wanted to double check we weren't missing any items of evidence. That's all. Sorry, Councillor Hutchison, go on if you got more.
Well, I guess that's all I have for James. I have a couple of questions for the applicant. I don't know if maybe you want to have some more questions for James, and I'll come on to the applicant afterwards.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Councillor Wenham, anything for James or witnesses?
For James, it was about fire, and that's been answered. But one more question. That says the Flamingo Land opens early in the morning. What time?
We usually open at 8 a.m. in the morning, pre-COVID. Obviously, when we finish from COVID, that's the time we wish to go back to.
Right, thank you. That's it for now.
Thank you. And I think Councillor Hutchison has covered most of my questions. I was going to ask, do you get any issues, not just from neighbouring businesses, but I suppose passers-by through the arcade or surrounding? But I think you've answered that, James, unless you've anything else to add on that with regards to any transphobic, homophobic, any abuse or trouble.
I mean, yeah, I would say that during the day, the issues are minimal because most of the crowd that are around the arcade and in the area are shoppers, workers. The only time we've really had incidences of homophobic incidents, and we have had many of them, sadly, is usually people who are intoxicated, who probably, if you met them during the day, probably wouldn't be so homophobic. But we have had many instances of which I think that Natasha, who gave evidence, was part of a group that was meeting here a couple of years ago that was the venue was attacked whilst they were in here with transphobic comments, and that was in the evening by some intoxicated people.
Okay, thank you. Do we want to put some more questions to the applicant just to add? And before Mr. Ware, you sum up, does that sound okay? I know Councillor Hutchison, you have at least one. I have.
Yes, I have one too.
And Councillor Wenham. Should we mix it up? Councillor Wenham then first, and then we'll go on to yourself, Councillor.
That's to the applicant actually about door staffing. Will you have any door staff at the door?
Yes,
for evening.
Yeah, can I assist with that? I was going to, Neil, if you just let me deal with this point. Councillor Wenham, we did offer a condition 9 in the premises licence application that we would have door supervisors from a key time, but also when risk assessed as being needed. So we are going to have door supervisors. We're going to have them at the impactful times, and we will risk assess that. And I'm sure Neil will confirm that if James would like to be included in that risk assessment, then we would talk to James as well to make sure that he's happy with when door supervisors are provided. I think Neil might be able to just confirm that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, James could be fully involved with that, of course.
When will the risk assessments be done then, and what time will the door staff be?
Well, in agreement with the police in relation to this matter, we've agreed that the door supervisor should be in place from 10 o'clock, 10 p.m., 2200 hours. But obviously, James has talked about areas where there might be a gap in making sure that there is proper coverage. So I think once we're open, we see how the customer base is. It was very encouraging that James feels that Neil's the kind of person to make sure that none of his staff or customers behave in such a way that any of James or his visitors to the premises would feel uncomfortable. That's something that we would risk assess. It would be dynamic. It would be ongoing if it needed to change. The key things about risk assessments is that you need to see whether there's a need to change them moving forward. And I think from what Neil's saying is that he would include James in that. He wants James to be happy that things are being done properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's it for now.
Well, thank you, Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, it was just something from what was mentioned during the respondents' comments, and I guess it's a simple question to Mr. Smedley: has your shop ever been associated with, or does it encourage the selling or the use of narcotics?
No, not at all.
And there's been no consideration, there's been no need for police involvement for anything around that subject?
No, I've been operating, this is my 10th year of operation, and we've never had any police involvement for any matter, least of all for narcotics or alcohol.
Great, thank you. Okay, then just quickly going on to, if you could, there's also a mention about the premises, and I note from the premises that we've been given a PDF of the layout, and the red line obviously dictates the licensed area, I'm guessing. The other area that's to the right-hand side, is that likely to be used? Is there going to be an overflow for when there are more people in the premises? Can you maybe explain just the premises, I guess?
Yeah, no, I'm sure Neil can deal with it in greater detail, but I had made a note of this. The licensable activities will only take place where we're applying for them to take place. If I was clumsy in the way I described, so if I don't have enough hair to need to go and use a barber's anymore, but if I was going to the barber's to use it and I wanted to have a drink, then in the area that's licensed, I could have a beer while I was waiting to get my hair cut or after I'd had it cut, and then that will be the area where the bar will be. So we're not seeking, this application is seeking to license the area which is covered by the layout plan, and certainly we've agreed those 20 seats condition with the police that we're very comfortable that that can take place. I don't know whether Neil can just confirm those issues to you.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. So I mean, during the daytime, whilst the barbershop is being used for its main function as a barbershop, obviously it will be used as a barbershop. Customers are offered or would be offered on granting of license beers with their cuts, but it wouldn't be for sale. And the area actually I'm currently sat in would specifically be the bar area. We would hope that once the barbershop begins to shut down, that we can also use that for patrons to sit in there and enjoy a drink also.
Okay, and is without me sort of quickly looking at the planning, sorry, the licensing application, is there any application for off sales, and is there anything going to be relating to maybe Cafe Street licensing?
Off sales, I think, is included in the application, but I don't think at this stage we're looking for a pavement license. That's not something that we would be looking for. It's not during the daytime when that would be appropriate. The main focus of the business is for it to be obviously a barber's shop. So I think I'm right, Neil. We wouldn't be looking for a pavement license.
No, you're correct, but that's right. No, not this time.
Okay, and then just again onto the licensing area, you kind of made reference. Is there any opportunity or is there a consideration that if this is granted, that the variation maybe be applied for more of the premises to be used?
No, that's not for consideration.
Right.
I've not been instructed on anything past today's hearing. That's all. So I've done a site visit. I've met Neil and his business partner. We've looked at what we want to achieve. And this is the first time that's ever been mentioned, obviously come up by the objectors. There's no intention. This is what we want to do at the premises. We've been very open with the responsible authorities, and I think Neil's obviously spoken to James. So,
Okay, and then just for a bit of satisfaction with regards to the fire risk assessment, although it doesn't really sort of form part of our decisions today, but I'm guessing a fire risk assessment will be conducted or has been conducted, and that all the requirements are put in place to ensure public safety and client safety.
That's correct, Councillor. Matthew is right. It's a clumsy system that we've got now, but obviously the fire officer hasn't put a rep in. So the way that the system works now is that we, under the RRO, need to do a risk assessment. That risk assessment will then be served on the fire officer. If there's anything wrong with it, then we would, at worst, get a prohibition notice served on us. So the concerns that James quite rightly has put before you will be addressed through the right function, which is through the risk assessment, and we won't be able to operate until we've got that done and signed off.
Okay, that's just a bit of clarity on that. That's all I wanted. That's all for myself. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. And again, I shouldn't keep offering these out because you keep on asking my questions. But the only other one I wanted to, well, actually a bit of a follow on from Councillor Hutchison's there for the risk assessment, and you know, barring something really awful being found where you would have a prohibition notice or have to do some major works, would you be willing to work with James and any of your other sort of neighbouring units just to reassure them about the fire risk assessment?
I hope that you've got a clear indication that Neil's very inclusive in the way that he approaches these things. So once that risk assessment's prepared and sent to the fire officer, I'm certain that Neil's happy to share that with James to give him the comfort that he requires.
Yeah, absolutely. All of that will be made completely transparent if it's necessary to do so.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about smoking area as well, especially with potential. Well, it sounds as though the one door in and out will be on the outside rather than through the arcade. And what your plans with regards to a smoking area, especially if there's concerns from between say 7 and 9, where would people be congregating to smoke?
Do you want me to take that, Paddy?
Yes, I think so, Neil.
So, I mean, unfortunately, I'm a non-smoker, but several of my staff do smoke. So when they smoke now, they go across the road outside of a shop that's called Bethany Taylor's, which is just outside of the Wi-Fi Club. The Wi-Fi Club have their own smoking area by the bin section there, and currently that is where they would go. It seems to be a sensible place.
So that's where you direct any customers, any patrons?
Yeah, of course, unless, obviously, I'm still naive to these things, unless, of course, there was something where we would need to come up with our own smoking area, which, of course, you know, we would do that if it was necessary.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Unless there's any further questions for Mr. Smedley or Mr. Ware. No, that's
Am I able just to come back on some of James's points in a positive light to offer some reassurance? Is that appropriate?
As those sort of answering our direct questions, if it's rebutting James, I suppose that counts as some of your 10 minutes. I don't know if Mr. Ware, you want to, if you're quite happy for Neil to take some of that 10 minutes. I don't know if you planned all of it. I know usually you do pass that on to the applicant as well. So yes. Yeah. I was just going to say, do you want to sum up? And between the two of you, you've got 10 further minutes.
That's brilliant. If Neil just deals with the issues he'd like to deal with, then I'll just wrap it up. That'd be brilliant. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Paddy. Yeah, it wasn't in terms of a rebuttal at all. It was just to address James's points, which are obviously valid from business patrons' perspectives. King Cobra has always been a very inclusive space. The manager of the Leeds shop here is a gay gentleman. The manager of our York shop is a gay woman. Our chief stylist here is a gay woman. Lots of James's own patrons come here. We have trans customers here. We have gay customers here. We have disabled customers here. So that inclusivity is inbred into the DNA of what King Cobra is. So that wouldn't be an issue at all. Those principles in terms of homophobia and transphobia are not principles that we as a brand stand for. so they wouldn't resonate with us or with any of our patrons. And on the rare occasion that would ever rear its ugly head, it would be dealt with incredibly swiftly, and they certainly wouldn't be welcome to be customers of ours. In terms of the noise, which I can understand is a big issue, we currently only have one speaker in the shop, which is about the size of an A4 piece of paper. We don't intend on upgrading that anytime soon. So there has been one or two instances when James had to come in and say, can you please turn the music down, which really has come on the back of the naivety of my staff. This is a great track, put it up, and we've put it down straight away. So in terms of noise, there would be no issue with that whatsoever. If ever that was an issue, James is perfectly welcome to come into the store, raise it with myself, and as long as it was a valid and legitimate complaint, and we're very reasonable people, we would listen to that and deal with it. But all of the concerns that James listed are concerns for us too. We don't want to add to anybody feeling unsafe or unwelcome. And if we could mitigate that point, with James, we're prepared to work for him. Some of the evenings that he hosts, if they ever got oversubscribed, he'd be welcome to host them here at King Kirby and with Lost at Sea.
Thank you. Just from my perspective, Chair, members of the committee, if I can just wrap up the noise issue. So we have offered at condition 25, a condition which is that licensable activities will be conducted in such a way that they don't cause an audible noise or perceptible vibration through the fabric of the building or structure to the adjoining properties. If the license is granted, James is actually in a stronger position than he is now, because we have that condition going on the premises license, which I hope gives him some comfort and you in relation to the noise issues. There's I think certain aspects. So I think during the day when the premises is a barbershop salon, when alcohol, it will be very modest. And then I think, as Neil's pointed out to you, there's then a period where the premises would be, on the whole, closed down, tidied and reopened. There's only going to be a very modest crossover of time when James's premises are still open and when we are gearing up to become a bar which is creating an atmosphere very different to, for example, Call Lane, as Neil's highlighted to you, for his customer base. So I think the chances of any impact in public nuisance terms are mitigated by those timings and by the operation that we've offered in the operating schedule. But I hope, Chair, members of the committee, more than anything, those that have been nervous and have raised concerns, and you as a licensing subcommittee, will have had fabulous comfort from Neil. He's somebody who wants this to be somewhere different, somewhere that is inclusive and somewhere that creates a lovely atmosphere for people to go to, and very much what James does in different circumstances next door. So in relation to the licensing application, I commend it to you as being in line with the local policy, in line with the Section 182 guidance. And I would suggest, Chair, that what you've heard and what's in the written application is appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. So sorry to end with a bit of legalese, but I hope you've got the passion from Neil and the comfort that he's going to be a quality neighbour to James moving forward.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, everyone. So the subcommittee will now move into a private session to deliberate on the application.
Sorry, can I just interrupt her? Remember, I was going to have 2 minutes just to respond to the final points, if that is still possible, please.
Oh, yes, I think we did. Did we? Yes, we did say that. Sorry, I assume you were 2 minutes on the end of the witnesses. Sorry, James, that's a misunderstanding there. That's fine, as long as it's fine with fellow members, unless they didn't misunderstand at all. I certainly misunderstood and thought it was a final after your witnesses.
Sorry, what was that, Chair?
So James is just saying a 2 minutes to summarise. Now, I misunderstood earlier and thought that would be straight after the witnesses.
James wouldn't get a further right to speak. He's made his presentation.
My understanding was, if I might interrupt here, my understanding, I did request the 20 minutes and then I asked for a couple of minutes at the end, and that was agreed by the chair and the committee.
I thought that was after your witnesses had spoken.
Yeah, I assumed the same that it was after the witnesses.
That was not the intention. I asked at the end to summarise and sum up.
Chair, I agree with yourself and with Rob Brown as well. My assumption was the 2 minutes were after the witnesses were called.
Yeah, I did outline the procedure
Yeah,
at the start,
agreed,
Mr. Greenhouse,
yes.
that it's the applicant or his representative who speaks last. They have the right to respond to the other points. You don't.
Well, I am very disappointed by this, and I will be reviewing the footage afterwards.
Okay.
So that's fine, as is right, and it's a bit easier to do that with it being broadcast as well, so much easier than it used to be. As is, you're right, James. I do apologise for the misunderstanding. As you know, it is set out in the procedure. That's why I think we all assumed you meant, you know, after your witnesses spoke as part of your time there. So we will carry on. We will be going into private session to deliberate on the application. Could I ask that everyone does stay on the call should the subcommittee have any additional questions, and especially the applicant, the representative and licensing officer. If there are any additional questions, you'll be invited back into the main meeting by the clerk. You'll be put into a waiting area for the sake of the Zoom call at the moment. Harriet,
Thanks, Chair. Yes, as you said, members, the legal officer and myself will now move into a breakout room. So please can everybody just remain in the meeting, and you'll be placed into a waiting room, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We're just waiting for Councillors Hutchison and Wenham to come back into the main room. And then it's just Mr. Smedley and Mr. Ware, just a couple of follow-up questions for you both. But we'll wait for the other two members. Thank you for your patience. Apologies, sometimes this happens from the breakout rooms. There we go, just got Councillor Wenham.
For some reason, I went the long way back.
Sorry, Angela's gone longer.
Andy, can I just ask if it says that Councillor Wenham is still in the breakout room?
No, the breakout room's closed. There's nobody there.
When I was there, I was one of the last to leave. It was myself and Philip were the last two people in there.
Okay. I think if you don't mind, Chair, we'll just adjourn briefly and I'll just try and get hold of Councillor Wenham, if that's okay.
That's fine, that seems best, if only for the live stream.
Thank you.
Councillor Wenham is
Hey,
here.
I'm here. Sorry about that. It just booked me out.
That's quite okay. I think we've got everyone, and thank you again, everyone, for your patience. We've just got a few supplementary questions for the applicant and representative. One should be quite a simple one, and the other involves showing the plan of the premises on the screen, and just a few questions around that. So the first bit is around under 18-year-olds and whether they would be on the premises at all, either during the day or the evening.
During the daytime, yes. Yeah, we cut people's hair that are under 18. On an evening when the bar becomes, when we primarily become a bar, then no, obviously not. But up until sort of 7 o'clock on an evening, there is the potential for under 18s to be in the barbershop. But bearing in mind, at that time, there will be a clear distinction between the two areas of the store. Okay, so there'll be an area of where you've already said you're sort of offering drinks with cuts, and an area where you're not. Yes, yeah, absolutely. A very clear. I mean, it's not even like with Doorline. They're two kind of separate entities that are connected by a kind of a wide corridor. But during the daytime, they're completely separate. That's fine, thank you. And I think that goes into, Andy, are you able to share the plan on screen? Because that might answer some questions around the sort of licensable area, the red line area, and offering drinks with cuts, which seems to have been answered there by could you just go over the red line area, the licensable area, where you'd normally be the sort of the barber shop bit, and the two entrances as well, and sort of where they lie. I know it's difficult when we can't point on screen or anything like that, but starting with the arcade entrance, are we right in saying that's the one on the bottom right hand side? Yeah, that's correct. The bottom right hand side. So when you say the entrance is going to be to Central Street, when you become the main bar, that's the one on the middle left. Correct. Okay, and you've just confirmed for us that there's going to be two quite separate areas during the day, presuming that's the licensable area where people can get haircuts in with the red line, and the other side, the right hand side, that's quite sparse and empty, but assuming it's got furniture and things in, is where, say, under 18s will be getting cuts and things like that. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, and could you go more? Could you tell us more about the off sales, and also the offering drinks with cuts, and where people can go with that open bottle or open, poured drink when they're being offered that with a cut, and also your intention with off sales as well? Just in terms of how it works when a customer comes in, you mean? And yeah, and then your intentions with off sales as a whole, I suppose, as well, please. Yeah, sure. So we've done it the entire time we've been opened, up until last year. When we were informed by the licensing committee that actually we weren't able to do it. We were naive on that point, so we ceased doing it immediately. But it's a common thing with barbershops. So when one of the customers comes in, because we're quite a premium shop, they're offered a drink that was either usually a coffee or a small, cheap beer. So they were offered that when they came in. If they said yes, they were able to have one. The bottles stayed on the premises, and it was cleared away once they'd finished their service. And the cost of that was absorbed into the price of the haircut. It was a complimentary beer as part of the price they're paying for the haircut. Okay, and off sales, you've applied for off sales. I think, Mr. Ware, you may have said something on it earlier, but is the intention to sell beer for consumption off the premises straight away, or at all? Or?
No, I believe, certainly from my understanding of the way that we put the application in. So as you look at the plan in front of you, and Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, the red-lined area is the bar area. The larger area with the entrance off Central Parade without the red line on it is the main area for the barber shop. That's correct. So basically, the off provision would allow for there's a bit of feedback there. Can you hear me?
We just lost you a tiny bit. If you want to start the sentence again.
Yeah. So the off sale provision is to allow, should this ever happen, to give flexibility. If somebody is having their haircut in the main area, but a lost at sea beer, for example, could be sold from the area which is licensed, but consumed in the area which is not licensed, which is why we've got the off-sale provision in the way that we've lodged the application. So as Neil's been talking about, so far, people have been given a free alcoholic drink, which I'm not 100% certain that they were right to be told that they couldn't do that, because if it's a free giveaway, then it wouldn't need to be licensed. But we're just trying to regularize things properly by doing it the way that we are doing it. So I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. I think we can unshare that.
Chair, I do believe there's a knowing misleading comments here, and I hope someone asks me a question to put it on the record correct, because there's something very badly wrong about what's being said here.
Sorry, I don't. Well, we can only go off sort of the answers we're being given. You know, there's no sort of mechanism for saying actually the answers we're being going wrong.
Well,
That's your chance, and Councillor Hutchison, you just got your finger up there, your hand up.
Yeah, a question just on that. So, with regards to when the barber shop is shut, and then you're going to go on to it being a bar, is there an opportunity whereby people will be doing off sales on the licensed area and sitting on the right hand side till 2 o'clock in the morning? Is that a provision that's been looked at, or is that not the case?
I'm really sorry, my internet connection just clicked halfway through that question. Could you repeat it, please?
Sure, no problem. So the licensed area is going to have off sales where people can then take their alcoholic beverage to where the barber shop area is on the right hand side, the unlicensed area. So my understanding was that when it becomes a bar, it's only the licensed area that will be operating as a bar. But is there going to be the opportunity where people can purchase off sales till 2 o'clock in the morning and then consume it in the non-licensed area?
Want me to answer that, Paddy, or do you want to do it? Okay?
Yeah, if you could just, from your perspective, Neil.
Yeah, what we would like to do really is just to have that flexibility. And we imagine that flexibility, realistically speaking, especially in this environment, would only ever be utilised on perhaps a Friday and a Saturday evening, which obviously are popular going out time. During the week, we don't envision there'll be a need for it. We don't imagine we'll be that busy where we would need the extra space. And part of the reason for doing that is to offer something different. It's quite cool and unique for a bar to be able to go and sit in a barber's chair, which are quite grand, ornamental looking things. So it's just to have the flexibility to, if we need to do it, we've got some extra capacity there, but it's certainly not something that will be utilised on a regular basis.
And if it helps the committee, that was what we made clear to, I apologise if I didn't make this clear in the application, but we certainly made that clear to the responsible authorities when we spoke to them. This is obviously valid within the legislation to use the off-sales provision to be able to do that. What we aren't able to do, obviously, in this area is offer other licensable activities. That must only take place within the area that's lined on the plan. So, as Neil said, to give flexibility on hopefully busier nights, we might need that additional space if we've got to continue with COVID distancing regulations, but it's certainly only later on an evening when the adjoining premises wouldn't be open anyway, if that area was going to be used, because that would be after it wasn't being used as a barber's shop. This has become very popular all around the country. Gin bars in barber shops I spend half of my time doing those at the moment, but they are themed and very popular. And as Neil said, people just like the theatre of being in that space.
Okay, I have another question, but it's probably worth a breakout room with Rob and Philippa regarding something, if that's okay, Chair.
Okay, we can take that. Thank you, James. I know you've had a concern there. Is it directly related to what we've just been discussing? Nothing to do with what came before we adjourned?
It is absolutely to do with what you're talking about.
Okay. Do you want to make a quick comment or question? If
Okay.
I'll allow that through. Go on, Terry.
So earlier on, the solicitor said it was sloppy language to suggest that there'll be drinking in the barbers' chairs. Now they're suggesting that there will be drinking in the barbers' chairs. This is precisely our concern, that the whole room will be used for drinking, that we are right next to that door, that the shop is going to be closed down in the evenings, and then that larger area will be used for now what they're calling off sales, will be used as a bar, and will be detrimental to our venue. This is absolutely not being considered. And I, of course, don't want to stop things from happening, but I don't think that there's fair representations being made about the plans. I've spoken to the owner. I've seen the plans. They want that larger area to be used for drinking on site. Absolutely fine. But if it needs to be clear to the committee what's going to be happening before the decision is made.
Thank you. And that's exactly why, I hope that's reassurance. That's exactly why we've sort of reconvened just to follow up on that. So that's a bit of reassurance there. So thank you for your input there. Could we re-adjourn? Again, please keep in because we might have a bit more follow-up based on what Councillor Hutchison said. And again, thank you for your patience.
Hi, Harriet. Is it possible to? Are we in the breakout room now? Yeah. Right.
I don't think we are.
No.
No. I got cut off and then had to rejoin again. I don't know if everybody else did as well. Does it look like it's kicked everybody off? Has everybody had to rejoin?
No.
So I had to rejoin too as well, yeah.
All of the other interested parties are just waiting in the waiting room at the moment.
Okay.
I've just got in contact with Rob, so it won't be a moment. If you could just stay mute. Oh, here he is. And then Andy will pop us back into the breakout room.
Hi.
Hello. Andy, if you could just place us back into the breakout room, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, thank you yet again for your patience, everyone. We'll just wait for. We've got 3 members. Have we got everyone back in it? All in one go. That's quite good. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Smedley, we've been discussing again this red line. And Andy, can you share the plan to the screen again, please? And can you just share with us again and explain again, Mr. Smedley, what the exact plans are in terms of the licensed area, the red line, and the unlicensed area during the day and then during the evening? Just go through the intentions there. Who's going to either get offered beer, drink beer, whatever it might be, daytime and evening, and where, and whether it's within or out with the red line area, please.
Yeah, sure. So the excuse me, the area outlined in red on the left hand side, that is for all intents and purposes, that is the bar area. That is Lost at Sea. That's where it is situated. Everything to the right hand side of that is the barber shop. Now in the barber shop, we give out complimentary beers, or we did rather. We were told that we couldn't without a license. Part of the motivation for this application is that as well. So on the right hand side, that is a barber shop. The people in there will be offered a complimentary beer with their service. On the left hand side, that is exclusively the licensed area where people can purchase alcohol. Those two areas are very, very separate. Now, the only time that we would like to be able to use the barber shop for people to consume alcohol is on what we perceive to be those rare occasions, perhaps on a Friday or a Saturday evening, when we may need to utilize some additional space.
Okay, and going back to the minimum 20, could they be seated, contained within the bar area ordinarily?
Yes, I'm actually sat in that area now as we speak. So 20 people can be accommodated here very comfortably.
Okay, and would the intention be on those rare occasions to sell a beer at the bar and for that to be taken into the barbershop area to sit on a fancy seat or whatever?
Yes, but again, that would only be once the barbershop was shut and done and closed for business.
Okay.
And just if I could just add some clarifications, that if it helps the people on the committee to understand. So until 8 months ago, for the entire 10 years that we've been operating, we would always give out a free beer to our customers, which, as you can imagine, was it was very appealing to them. We had a high uptake on that, about 60%. So actually, all throughout the weeks we were very busy. The entire area on the right-hand side of the shop, most of the people in that area throughout the day were consuming small amounts of alcohol during our opening hours with their free beer. So the proposal isn't that much different from the way we've always been operating.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Andy. We're happy about the plan now, thank you. Right, I'll just defer to Councillor Hutchison or Councillor Wenham, just on, well, or anything else for the applicant, but on that, any other follow-up there?
I guess maybe Paddy can advise. One of the issues that we're seeing is if the red line of where the licensed premises is, if somebody then takes an alcoholic beverage from there through into the non-licensed area, is it considered off sales or is it considered on sales?
Yes.
And is it open with an open or closed vessel?
It is considered an off sale. So if you, I'm just realising, I'm sorry, I don't know how my camera had gone off there. It is considered an off sale. So if you could think of it in similar terms to a pub beer garden, which wouldn't have the red line around it, but where people would buy a drink in the pub and then go and sit outside to drink it, that's permitted under the legislation. So you are buying an alcoholic drink for consumption off what is the licensed part of the premises. So it's permissible to do it the way that we are applying to do, the way that we have applied for this application.
Okay, and it's just purely beer and wine, is that correct?
There is beer, wine, and the potential for gin and tonic as well, but the main brand that they're seeking to sell is the Lost at Sea beer, which fits in with the image of the premises. There are no draft beers. It's not that, you know, please don't think of this as being like a normal setup bar. It's very much that the primary activity of the whole of the building is as a barber shop. But then there is the ability for the bar to trade, which will fit in with in keeping with the branding, the customer base, the way that the premises will operate. And clearly, when we discussed all of this with the responsible authorities, we really didn't think that we'd end up troubling you as a licensing committee with this level of concern, because we're very confident, as are the responsible authorities, that what we've applied for, we can promote the licensing objectives with those conditions that are attached to the license. So we're very sorry that this is causing you the amount of detailed consideration that it is, but we didn't think that it would do. But I do hope that you have comfort in understanding how the premises will trade, and certainly from Neil as a person, and that the actual potential crossover, as I see it, where there could be any potential difficulties is probably between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the evening, when premises don't tend to be at their busiest anyway. So in looking to grant, refuse, or grant with a different set of conditions or different type of license that we've applied for, I'm sure you'll be assisted on the legal test by your learned legal advisor. It's all about the potential to promote or not to be able to promote the licensing objectives. And what I said in relation to the public nuisance element, which I think is the key issue, I don't think there is a real fear that we're going to add to any crime and disorder in the area, but in relation to the public nuisance element of it, that condition 25 gives a robust, enforceable, better position for anybody who's concerned about any public nuisance issues than exists at the moment. But it's certainly lawful in what we're asking for in relation to the exact setup that Neil's just explained to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. Right. We will adjourn for what is hopefully.
It's so clear that this is a full and proper bar that they're trying to open. It's so
James, could we?
I'm
just going to say
outrageous that we are being treated like this, and our LGBT space is under attack. I'm sorry. They said no alcohol at the start, and now they're saying there's going to be lots of it potentially in this big overflow, and it's going to be a full bar. I'm sorry.
Points taken, James. Thank you. Could we adjourn, please?
Just before we do, Chair, could I just clarify with Mr. Ware about the premises area? You've got a condition in which I think, I'm not sure whether it's agreed with the police, but the drinks, open bottles and glasses will not be taken from the premises at any time. Is that to say that you'll be supplying the people having the haircut with a bottle, but it wouldn't be opened until it was taken into that hair cutting area, the barbershop part? Or did that really mean not to be taken out of the whole of the building?
I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I was trying to look at the application on the screen as well.
Sorry, so it's on page 31.
Yeah, I've got it now, and I think the point that you've raised, Robert, is right. I think that wording should be building rather than premises.
Right. Okay. That clarifies that.
And then it's clear. But there won't be an ability to take any alcoholic beverage out of the building onto the street, which is what we were certainly seeking to achieve, which is why we're not asking for a pavement license.
Okay. Rob, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that clarifies that for me anyway.
Well, thank you. Could we adjourn for what is hopefully the last time, please? but notwithstanding, people stay on the call just in case. Thank you.
Apologies, everyone. We're just waiting for the chair to be able to rejoin the meeting. Please bear with us. Hi, Councillor Garner. Are you back with us?
I am.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Technical issues. But we're all here. I think you're all waiting for me, so apologies again. So after a couple of adjournments, I'd just like to thank everyone for your attendance. Concludes the business of the committee that needs sort of applicants and objectors and things like that. So it concludes the business for today. Everyone will be informed of the decision of the subcommittee within 5 working days. But thank you all, especially for your patience through many technical issues today. You will, as I say, you will be informed in 5 working days.